bring in our co-host, Mr. Jeffrey Lewis. He's a bronze executive director out of the East Coast of Florida, guys, doing an amazing job. He's one of our regional directors, and he's going to go ahead and he's going to be our interviewer, and he's going to be interviewing our guest speaker. So, Mr. Lewis, I'm going to bring you in to let you take the call over, my friend.
Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Gonzalez. I appreciate you and getting this opportunity. It means a lot to me. This individual, I just want to share a small story with all of those that are plugging in today, just so you can understand the girth of what's happening with this type of interview, right? And so, number one, I remember first getting started in this company and getting out to a national convention. There's a clue there. And the clue is that success lives there. And I remember getting there, not knowing very much, and meeting an individual that knew nothing about me, that had no financial tie to me, but simply wanted to impart on me something that could bless me. And he told me, he said, Jeffrey, you know, I could tell by your smile, you're going to do great things with this company one day. And man, that stayed with me. That was over 13 years ago. And my family's been blessed by this company ever since. I consider that one of the words of wisdom. Listen, if I go over Dun & Bradstreet about this individual, millionaire club member, I mean, over $500,000 of income a year. Look, Platinum Council member, an author, Dare to Be Rich. I mean, he has a website. He's a personal development coach. He's a father. He's a husband. Listen, he's just a great, great guy. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Larry Smith. Mr. Larry Smith, are you there, sir?
I am, sir. Thanks very much for having me. I appreciate you all being here. And what a great new platform. It's great, Jeffrey and Daniel. I like what I see already. I'm already jotting down notes going, okay, R&D here.
Well, we're glad to have you. I just love your energy. Mr. Smith, I'm honored to have this chance. This is like a locker room talk. It's like being able to sit with you and just pick your brain. This is exciting. The first question that I really wanted to ask was, you know, when you first got started, I mean, I know for me, when I first looked at this, I come from a conventional background, and you're a corporate guy background, just like myself. What was your impression? What was your, perception of this industry when you first got started, or before you ever got started? What was your perception of this industry?
Well, the first company I was introduced to, because I'd tried 3 other companies before Legal Shield, the first company I was introduced to, I didn't know anything about the industry. So I was like, you know, a brand new child, if you will, going through the evolution of a belief system. I met the owner of the company. He said, listen, this is how it works. This is how you got paid. And all I saw was by building a team and building leveraged income that I could make more money than I was worth, actually have the opportunity to make much more than I was worth because of leveraged income. I'd already been through 20 years of corporate. I knew what it was like to only get paid for what I did. And that's why my 9th month in the company, I was earning more per month in Legal Shield than I was earning after 20 years in corporate America. But I saw the first company, I saw the opportunity to build a team, and the owner said, this is what you do. I went out and did it the first day. He came back and said, that's amazing. Let's do some more. And interestingly enough, after 13 months, I had told the gentleman that I could no longer stand in front of the room and tell people this could change their life, because it wasn't changing mine, and integrity to me is everything. And he terminated me, Jeffrey. So my first experience was, I joined, I worked hard, I became the top guy, and got terminated because I told the owner I couldn't do it because I didn't believe what I was telling people was truth and transparent. And so that was my first experience. Legal Shield, I bought it just because of the membership opportunity. And a month later, the company I worked for closed down. I found myself unemployed. A lot of my friends said I was having a midlife crisis. I called it a midlife review because I was looking back, and at that 20 years, I went, what did that 20 years really get me? I'll tell you what it got me, Jeffrey. It got me 20 years of job experience, but no cash flow. As a matter of fact, here we are, July 6th of 2020, and I have never once been paid one penny since the time that company closed down after doing all that work for 20 years, and my Legal Shield experience is much different.
So what I'm grading from this, it's the truth, it's the integrity, it's the realness of Legal Shield that drew you there. And man, that's big to me, because I know, coming from my background, you know, very conventional, when you look at things like this, you know, it's just not what people want to accept. And you literally had that same experience too. You put your entire integrity, your hard work into a first company, and you couldn't stay because it wasn't real. And the truth of Legal Shield is what drew you. I mean, that's big. that's good. I appreciate that. Okay.
And by the way, Jeffrey, just because I want to make that point, when I joined Legal Shield, when Michael Dorsey recruited me, before he recruited me, I became a member. I became a member in December of 95. And because I knew I needed to get my will done, I didn't join Legal Shield to start a business. I was too busy in my corporate job to think that I had any time to do anything else. And so, but I did see value in the membership. And a month after I bought it, the company I worked for closed down, which I found myself unemployed. But here's what really got me. A month after that, I took a ring to a jeweler to get some work done. The jeweler was supposed to fix the ring, but instead of fixing it, he ruined it. And I know that every single person watching this show tonight has been treated unfairly before. And there's nothing worse than the feeling of injustice when you know you're right, but you're being treated wrong. But because I had Legal Shield, I could call the law firm without worrying about cost. An attorney spent 45 minutes asking me questions. She made a phone call to the jeweler telling him what my rights were as a consumer. And like I tell people, I have no idea what she said to him, but I still dream about it from time to time, because 15 minutes later, she faxed me a release of liability. And the same day the jeweler told me he wouldn't do anything, that same jeweler gave me a check for $2,152.32 to replace my ring. And I never paid more than my $25 for my monthly membership. And that, Jeffrey, is when I saw a real opportunity. And I realized I'd much rather be curious and rich than skeptical and broke.
Curious and rich. Okay. I'm trying to write down notes as quick as you speak. Okay. So let me ask this question. So when people first get started, a lot of times they may not have the background that you did with the membership. Sometimes the first exposure they have to the business is just the income. So when you first got started, what was your perspective on the first day you got started versus now? In other words, how did you see it? Like, did you have these great big goals and did you know, what was your perspective? Did you know you had to go to every convention? What was your perspective and versus what it is now? And how does that help you,
Yeah, listen, that's a great question. Back when I started, we didn't have anything digitally. We had no websites, no mobile apps, the only thing we had was a scratchy audio tape that me and Michael knocked off from one of Dave Savola's presentations. And thank God I had Dave for my upline support as my upline platinum, because Dave, matter of fact, we didn't have platinum back then. It was ED was the top position we had. But Dave, when Dave said, listen, he showed me the 5 keys to success. He said, I said, how do you make $1 million? Because he was already making $1.2 million in his third year. And I said, how do you make $1 million marketing a $25 product? And he said, there's 5 keys to success. And I asked him what they were. And he said, 15 minutes show you may or may not be interested, 2 a day in a weekly meeting. And I said, what do you mean by that? He said, when you approach people, don't assault them, because if you push on them, their natural tendency is to push back. Ask them if they have about 15 minutes, because that's all it takes to present the membership. And he says, and then tell them if there's something important you want to show them, not tell them, and tell them they may or may not be interested, so that you give them a way out. They don't feel like they're plugged into a corner. He said, do 2 presentations a day and attend a weekly meeting. And after he explained that, I kind of chuckled and I said, Dave, it can't be that simple to make $1 million. And he chuckled back at me and he said, then why don't you go do it your way? And I was unemployed and broke, and he was making $1 million a year. Jeffrey, who would you listen to?
That's right. Okay. So, but what I grasped from that though is that you were the type of guy who had big vision though, to even ask, how do you make?
No, the real thing was I didn't. I started part-time working 10 hours a week. Because of my previous experience, even though I'd already had incredible user experience with the service, I was still skeptical about the financial side of the company because of what had happened to me earlier. And so my first month I made $700. My second month I made $2,800. My third month I made $4,132. And I needed to make $1,000 a week to go full time. About that time, Michael Dorsey called me and he said, it's time to go to convention. I said, what convention? And he said, one that we go to every year so we can see the top money earners. And I said, Michael, I can't afford to go to convention. And I'll never forget this, Jeffrey. He said, Larry, that will be your excuse why you don't go or your reason why you do go. And I said, what do you mean? He said, some people will say, I'm broke. I can't afford to go to convention. while other people will say, I'm broke, I can't afford not to go to convention. And somehow I found a way to get there, because I was broke, trust me, but somehow I found a way to get there. And I actually slept in a sleeping bag on somebody else's hotel room floor. And I had a backpack full of water bottles, granola bars, and peanuts because I couldn't afford to eat at the restaurant. Here was the magic thing that happened. And there's an old expression about this. You'll never know the one event where you'll hear the thing that will trigger your desire to change your life forever. And my trigger was Harlan Stonecipher's keynote speech on that Saturday night at convention. And when he said what he said, with the enthusiasm, the integrity, the gentlemanly posture that he had, I believed him. And I came back home and I stopped doing my other 2 part-time jobs and I went full scale. And back then it was much different to qualify for ED, but my 8th month I qualified for ED. My 9th month, my income went over $10,000 a month. I've never made less than that. And I've never fallen out of ED because of what it took to get there. So, I believed in Mr. Stonecipher's vision. And to this day, that vision still just stares at me subconsciously 24/7. And that's why, even though financially speaking, Jeffrey, I'm fortunate to not have to work, I can't imagine not doing this. I always joke with people and tell people, if my wife buries me, which I hope she doesn't, but if she buries me, on my headstone, it's going to say, here lies Larry Smith from Legal Shield, LSLS, right? Here lies Larry Smith from Legal Shield. And if you got about 15 minutes, drop in to see me. Something important I want to show you.
This is great. You know how refreshing it is to hear that someone who's made over $500,000 a year, $1 million, platinum. I mean, was skeptical kind of, because I was, even when I was in it, making money, and that had to be built. So what you're saying is that's something everyone goes through, and you have to kind of build through it and look for this. That's awesome. I love that. When I asked this question, so Mr. Smith, I mean, I started reading your book. Okay, Dare to Be Rich. I'm still figuring out the camera. Okay, and that's a little plug there. Great book. And you talk about things like recipes for success and, dream income. What that leads into is, habits on the business, right? So when you first got started, did you naturally have productive habits, right? I mean, we learn all the time that you could tell how productive somebody is by how the habits that people have based on the production they have. Yeah. Did you have those habits already, or did you have to build them?
Here's the thing that was interesting, Jeffrey. Because I actually tried 3 companies before Legal Shield, so I understood the concept of weekly events, of 3-way calls, of personal development. So the foundation of what was necessary, I'd already had those habits, if you will, but I still didn't, in all honesty, I just didn't have belief that something like this could happen to a kid who quit high school, who joined the military, who came back from Vietnam, got a high school GED, never went to college. I thought my lack of scholastic education would really hold me back, even though my productivity allowed me to grow in corporate. I just never saw myself at that point when I started as someone that could make $1 million. And, I've been paid over 7 million now. But I never saw that vision. I think that comes along over time. And the most interesting part is, I think a lot of people, if you think about this, a lot of people expect to start a business, and in network marketing, they expect it to go like this, right? And just continue to grow. Apple doesn't do that. Microsoft doesn't do that. Google doesn't do that. That business goes up and down. And so the first month that I kind of had a decline in income, I thought everything was in trouble. And then I started really having to work on me about, hey, I'm still doing the same activity. It's nothing that I'm doing wrong, so to speak. It's just that I've got to do more of it. And as I started recruiting people, when they went through the same struggles, I said, listen, everything you're doing is what you should be doing. You just need to do more of it. And it's all about activity. And we talk about it all the time to this day,
I'm eating. I got to make sure I watch my time. I want to ask so many more questions based on that question, but I'm going to stay focused here. Okay. So let me ask this. If you were a new associate today, right? Mm-hmm. And I know you probably get this kind of question all the time, but with the technology that you had, and everything that you see around you, where you could kind of compress timeframes, knowing what you know, which I guess is a foolish question, right? Because it's hindsight. But what type of goals would you set for yourself, like right now? Like, how would you, you know what I mean? How would you, what would you get started today, 6 months from now? What kind of goals would you set for yourself, and how would you do them, I guess?
Yeah. One thing that Dave always talked about was daily goals. And I've never, honestly, Jeffrey, I've never been a long-term goal setter to try to work my way backwards. Some people have success with that. It's not good or bad or right or wrong. But for Larry Smith, that setting a long-term goal and trying to work it backwards doesn't really work for me, right? My goals, I have to go, like at nighttime. My wife and I are totally different about this. Okay. Before I go to bed at night, I have to make a list, right, of the things that I'm going to do the next day. And I grade them, Jeffrey. I make this list. So I've got this ongoing list of things, and I use an Excel spreadsheet because that's easiest for me. But I have an ongoing list. Every time I think about something I have to do, or I want to do, or I should do, I go in and add it to my list, right? And then at night before I go to bed, I classify things. I go on the left side of each of those things on the list, and I make them either an A, B, or C. This is really interesting. And then an A are the things that can have an immediate financial benefit to my business. So if it doesn't have an immediate financial benefit to my business, it's not going to be an A. If it does, then it's going to be an A, right? And if it could have a financial benefit, it's going to be a B. And if it's fun and might have a financial benefit, it's going to be a C. I'll tell you what happens. What all of us love to do is do the fun things. The fun things aren't necessarily profitable. So at the end of the day, we go, oh, I did all this work, but I didn't make any money. And it's because we are focused on the fun things. Well, if you're not making money, I don't see how there's anything fun attached to that equation. So what happens is by doing A, B, and C, then I go back, Jeffrey, and I look at the A's and I say, what's the most important thing? That becomes A1, and then A2, and then A3 till I get through the A's. And I don't care what happens. When I start the office in the morning, A1 is the first thing up. I don't care if the phone rings. I don't care what happens. A1's getting done. My A's are going to get done before I let anything distract me. My calls will go to voicemail. I had in my calendar, because I've got an online calendar for my team to use me for 3 ways, private Zooms, whatever they need, but it doesn't start until noon because I keep from 8 o'clock in the morning. I get up around 5:30 or 6. I do my personal development. I do my journaling. I sit out in my back by the lake and just read my book and do my journaling, come in and do my exercise, and then come into my office around 8:30 or 9 in the morning. And I take that time till noon, and I get my priorities taken care of. Because if I'm not well, how can I help my team get well, right? So I take care of my stuff first, and then I spend from noon till usually 7 o'clock at night helping the team. And listen, I'm not busy that whole time, so I can go downstairs and sit down and visit with my wife and talk about things. So it's not like I'm crazy busy where I'm just working from 9 to 7, so to speak. But I've got to get my priorities done first, and that's what allows me to help become a stronger leader.
My hands hurt. You're giving me so many nuggets, man. It's supposed to be one answer. You just give me a bunch of stuff. This is awesome. Okay, what I want to ask, I'm gonna ask this question specifically because you already started it. What does your personal development regimen look like? Like, what does a platinum executive director millionaire club like? What is that personal development? It's not 10 pages a day. I know there's consistency there, but there's got to be. I mean, what is it like? What do you do to be? I guess to be you. So how does that work?
Yeah, first of all, I don't limit it to 10 pages because 10 pages is kind of like just getting warmed up. Sometimes 10 pages is good enough depending on what I'm reading right now because of COVID, right? There's some people that have had some challenges with this and they're calling me and, they have a tendency to want to, I hate to say complain, they're sharing their feelings. So I don't want to call it complaining, but they're talking about how the COVID is affecting their business where they can't do as good as they have in the past. And you become the average of the 5 people you hang around with the most, right? If you have people that are talking and, because you want them to call you don't want them to talk to their organization. So they call their leader and they start talking about things that may not be positive, might be negative. I always talk about, when you become the average, the 5 people you hang with the most, you've got to make sure that you're staying above all that. And so right now, since COVID, I started rereading Battlefield of the Mind by Joyce Meyer, because your mind is everything, right? What you think about is what you dream about. And so I've done that, and it's helped me so much in being able to still communicate with them positively to help them get back into production instead of letting that excuse of coronavirus or COVID being a reason why they can't do business. How can we do business is a question. Don't tell me why we can't. Let's talk about how we can. Let's get creative and talk about how we can do business. And that's why through our leadership as a company, that's why the company is up the way it is year over year, because people are doing the right things. Listen, this is the third pandemic I've faced in my 24 years here. I'm in my 25th year now. I've been through 9/11, 2008, and 2020. And let me tell you my experience. In a good economy, our business is good. In a bad economy, our business gets better. And the people who focus on what the bad economy or the pandemic can mean to the growth of their business instead of the decline of their business are the ones that are going to grow significantly stronger when the pandemic is over.
So you tucked a bunch of messages in the focus part. All right. So, okay. First of all,
I could be answering several things at one time. It's just the way I work.
I mean, it's awesome. You tucked it in. It's just basically, what are you focusing on? That's really
right.
I love that. Right. Listen, I mean, wow. Okay. What you focus on, that's what you manifest. Right. I mean, so,
that's exactly right.
Okay. So let me ask this. Okay. So I'm going to skip that one because we're running low on time. I'm having a little too much fun.
You're fine.
So what are some of your tips for maintaining team momentum? Right. I mean, especially now, you know, I could hear some of it, having them focus on can as opposed to what could. But, you know, what are some of your tips of keeping the momentum going for a team?
Well, one of the things is, it's kind of, some people ask me, how do you motivate your team? I don't believe that's my role, Jeffrey. I mean, in all honesty, I don't believe my role is to motivate my team. I believe my role is to be inspirational to my team so that they can see that they can duplicate. The things that I do are, I kind of try to dumb everything down, if you will, so that there's no reason that anybody can tell me they can't do it. Part of the reason I wrote the book, Jeffrey, was because I know people see somebody that have this massive success and they kind of go, oh, I could never do that. And if you notice, the first half of my book is about my life story and the things I went through. I can't tell you, we've sold thousands and thousands of books already, and we've never even gone on Amazon. I'm just selling off my private website at loveandmoneyhacks.com. But I can't tell you how many people have called me, text me, email me, and said, your story about the first half of your book, about what you went through, your story is taking away every excuse I could have ever dreamed of. And so I think we have to be real. I don't want to be positioned as somebody that is better than anybody else, or I have more talent than anybody else. Once I saw, my second year in Legal Shield, I made $224,000. And that was over twice what I made after 20 years as a corporate president. And that's when the belief hit me. I went, you know what? There really is no cap or ceiling on earnings. And the biggest challenge I face today, and I think a lot of people do, is you get to this level of comfort. And I started studying money in 1997, because when I started Legal Shield, I literally wrote a $49 hot check. And back then we had snail mail was all we had. And my first commission check was $62.50. And the cost was $49 back then. And I got my first commission check and ran it to the bank, and it kept my hot check from bouncing. True story. 9 months later, I was making $10,000 a month. My second year, I made almost $250,000. And I realized that I could dream as big as I wanted. And the computer didn't care about my high school GED. The computer didn't care that I hadn't been to college. The computer gave me an associate number and said, anything you're involved in, we're going to reward you for. And I need for my entire team to know that they can become and do whatever their desire is. I can't create the work ethic, the work discipline. That's on them. but I can certainly tell my story and share stories of so many fantastic people, like in Profiles of Success, who have changed their life with the biggest part of our opportunity way out in front of us. So there's really no reason that anybody can't do this. The only question is, there's pain in being broke. There's pain in creating wealth. So, it's hard to be broke. It's hard to create wealth. Choose your heart. What do you want? Listen, money's not everything. People say, well, money's not everything it's cracked up to be. I said, people say money isn't everything. And I go, you're right. It's not, but being broke isn't all it's cracked up to be either. And I've been both places. So I'm qualified to know this, right?
Talk about it.
But the reality of it is it's not just making money. It's having the right mindset about money. And that's another learning curve. I started spending 2 hours a day studying money in 1997 after I went to a weekend seminar with Robert Kiyosaki, because I was broke after 20 years of corporate jobs. I couldn't write a $49 good check. I knew how to make money, but I didn't know how money worked. And after I attended Kiyosaki's seminar, I turned around and decided I was going to study money for 2 hours. I've been doing that. That's why in 2014, I was featured on Fox Business News for my financial success, because I learned what to do with the money. And now I have multiple streams of income, but Legal Shield is my foundation of everything I do, because I shouldn't even say what I do. It's not what I do. It's who I've become as an individual. The mission of Legal Shield, helping people. The financial reward is automatic if you truly care about helping people. Amazing opportunity for anybody that wants a better way of life.
I love it. I'm not going to try to reiterate that, because you even had a personal development note still tucked in there about what to do. So I'm just going to leave that 2 hours a day. So, okay. I'm going to ask this last question. I want to make sure I get this in before the time.
Sure.
So listen, what are some tips on helping new associates overcome their fear of inviting their friends and families to their launch, to a private Zoom or PBR, et cetera, like that?
Great question. Listen, your family is nothing more than a prospect. People expect the family to do everything. I can tell you, when I first started, one of my own brothers looked at me straight in the eyes and he said, "Larry, that's a pyramid." And I said, "What's a pyramid?" Now, I knew what he meant, Jeffrey, but I wanted him to explain it, right? So he said, "That's a pyramid." I said, "What's a pyramid?" He said, "It's where the people at the top make all the money." And I said, "Well, you're a store manager, right?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Who do you report to?" He said, "The district manager." I said, "Does a district manager get a bonus off your store?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "Who does a district manager report to?" He said, "The zone manager." I said, "Does a zone manager get a bonus off the district?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Who does a zone manager report to?" He said, "The owner." I said, "Do you think the owner gets a bonus?" And he said, "Of course he does." And I said, "So if a pyramid is where the people at the top make all the money, what are your chances of going from store manager to owner?" And he said, "Well, that'll never happen." I said, "Sounds like a pyramid to me." And so, he didn't become an associate, obviously, but 4.5 years later, when I was inducted into the inaugural Millionaires Club, he called me seriously and he said, "I'm concerned that you're going to go to prison for fraud." Today, Jeffrey, 24 years later, I'm lucky. Listen, you can't fix stupid, right? And I love my brother, right? But sometimes you can't fix stupid. And it's okay. But I've always tell people, don't ever expect your family to be any different than any other prospect, right? Professional sort, amateurs convince. One very important thing is Cleve Pickens. Dave Savola and Michael Dorsey had this guy named Cleve Pickens, which a lot of people don't know, but he was making $250,000 a year when I joined in 1996. But Cleve gave me this plaque to put on my desk that I had in there for years that said, "How much money will I make today if my team does what I did?" And that became a major accountability statement for me. And so from that, over the years, I've just said, here's your report card or scorecard, whatever you want to call it. Here's what you have to ask yourself at the end of every day. How many times today did I put new information in front of new people? And that is your scorecard and report card. Listen, Jeff Bell's pulled up every bit of data there is through all the analytics. We have the numbers today to support all the things they talk about. And the reality of it is, if you don't do the activity, you're going to have a hard time creating wealth. Now, the beautiful thing about Legal Shield, we have a lot of people that don't want to create wealth. They just want to supplement their income, $300,000, $500,000 a month. We got lots of people doing that. We have people that want to replace their job income so they can make the same amount of money, but work on their own terms. And we have a lot of people doing that. We got people that want to make six figures that are doing that have never made six figures in their life. And we got people that want to become millionaires that have, because they have the opportunity. So the work ethic and the work discipline you have to come to Legal Shield with that same work ethic and work discipline that you had in your corporate role or whatever role you were in. You got to put the work in. So the question is, how many times today did I put new information in front of new people? And if that answer is right every day, you can't help but having a great business over time.
Okay, Larry. So you exploded my head because I finally just put all that together. I've heard you say some of that before, but now you're literally saying, Jeff, first of all, amateurs convince professionals sort, amateurs convince.
Got it.
But then here's the other part, Jeff. Not everybody wants to replace their wealth. Some people just want part-time income, someone full-time income, someone to replace their wealth. And the Legal Shield story needs to be told congruent to that. It needs to equal each other. So not everybody wants to be a billionaire, right? So
that is why with every new associate, you've got to find out their why. That's why we talk about it, right? Because if you're trying to help them become a millionaire, you could scare them right out of the business.
Right.
You got to find out what they want. I said, what are you looking for? Are you looking to supplement your income? Are you looking to replace your job income? Do you have interest in six figures? Do you want to create wealth? What are you trying? And listen, let me tell you a real quick story because I know we're short on time, but I got to tell you this story. And my wife says it's not exactly like this, but it's exactly the way I remember it. When I met Donnie, I met her at a convention in 1998, and her self-esteem was so far in the tank because she had been through the same things I did. She lost her job. She had her car repossessed. They got evicted out of her house and was sleeping on the floor and air mattress of her best friend's house with her two kids. I mean, she's been through it. And when she was introduced to me in 1998 at the convention, she wouldn't even make eye contact with me because I'd already made $250,000. And so I looked at her and I said, hey, I'm up here, and I said, tell me why you're doing Legal Shield. And she said, because I want more money. And I said, that's great, but why are you doing Legal Shield? She said, because I want more money. I said, I heard that the first time. Why are you doing Legal Shield? She said, because I need more money. I said, what do you need more money for? And she said, I need a bigger house. And I said, well, what size house do you have? And she told me, and I said, why do you need a bigger house? She said, because I need more room. I said, why do you need more room? She said, because I want more space. I said, why do you want more space? She was getting really frustrated. And finally, because my son and daughter share a room, and at this age in their life, that's not a problem. But when they become teenagers, I'm afraid it would be uncomfortable for the two of them. I said, now I know why you're doing Legal Shield. It had nothing to do with money. It had to do with her concern for her kids having to share a room as boy and girl when they became teenagers. And so when one of the times that she wanted to quit, listen, we've all quit a million times in our mind, right? We go through the frustration. We go, I've had it, for about 3 seconds, and then we jump right back in.
You're back
So
in.
the first time she said she was frustrated, I said, oh, so you decided to let Matthew and Amanda share the same room as teenagers, huh? Well, she almost hit me, Jeffrey, but she jumped right back in. And listen, she became a bronze ED on her own. She was underneath Nick's service. She wasn't underneath me. I had no financial benefit whatsoever, but she built her own business because of that same attitude about, the scorecard, right? How many times today did I put new information in front of new people? Any excuse will allow you to quit. Just pick one. But it takes guts, determination, discipline, and work ethic to go out and do what you want to change your financial legacy forever. Which one's easiest for you?
Mr. Smith, I literally love you. I appreciate you. And I thank you for everything that you're doing, just pouring into us. And I kind of feel like I just had a personal talk with you. Like I came over to the house, I hung out. That was amazing. There's tons of things I could literally talk to you more about, but I think, I've taken a lot of your time. And listen, I don't know what we could give back to you. Just call us and let us know. I thank Mr. Gonzalez for setting this up. But Mr. Smith, listen, if you guys don't, if you haven't already, you definitely want to get online. You want to grab Mr. Smith's book, Dare to Be Rich. Definitely a great copy. He teaches you how to use the income that you're earning in Legal Shield or need outside of Legal Shield to, to put yourself at another level. My part, that's one of my favorite, is paying yourself first. And some of this information today will help you to get paid first. So, Mr. Smith, once again, I thank you. God bless you. Look, I'm not sure how to close one of these things. It's the first time I've ever done it.
It's real simple. The website address again is loveitmoneyhacks.com. I didn't write the book to make money. I wrote the book because I know what it's like when you deal with life struggles. Michael Dorsey's got a book himself called 6 Inches from Success at michaeldorseyofficial.com. And I can tell you, our goal is not to sell books. Our goal is to help people because we've seen the benefit today of what you can, how your life can change. And when you get money out of the way, that's when you find out what you can really become. As long as you're struggling with money, you're never going to find out what you're capable of. You've got to get money out of the way, and Legal Shield allows all of us the opportunity to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thanks
hey, Daniel, back over to you, sir, before we keep going, because we could go.
I noticed, but hey, thank you so much, Mr. Smith. You blew me away, my friend. I was also taking notes. I was trying to put as much as I could there in the streaming box to keep everyone abreast in case if they missed it. I wanted to make sure they're able to get that, folks. So look, in closing again, you guys got to check out that book. I mean, look, I read this almost in one sitting, guys. I mean, seriously, almost read the whole book. I couldn't stop. Ask Rebecca, my wife. She'll tell you I was on the couch. And look at, we have that open house presentation that we got coming on. Mr. Smith is going to be our guest speaker at that open house. So now you have the nuggets. Now you have the stories. Now you have a proper invitation, right? And if you hop on early at 5:30, from 5:30 to 6:30, we're going to do a live call party. Same link, right? FloridaLSZoom.com. Make sure that you're there. Guys, thank you all very much. I know we went over a little bit, but I guarantee everyone is walking away with a smile on their face because information that Mr. Smith delivered was off the chain. Mr. Lewis, thank you for bringing the fire. Mr. Smith, you have a great night. And to all of you, we love you. Thank you, Florida, for everything that you do. See you all on Thursday. Take care.